tonight we have two very special ladies on our panel, both Laura Eisenhower and ELENA DANAAN. Please welcome the ladies to our panel.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, there you go. There's the spirit.
Tonight, our main interview is with Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. So we're going to start off with Laura, although we are going to do a short segment with ELENA, probably in the second half of the live stream. So if you're going to hang around for ELENA, it's very interesting and very informing and very inspiring. So please do so. Laura, as we were talking backstage, I was talking to you about some very interesting subjects, but I would like to start with a question in regards to your background. Can you give us a little history?
My background, well, I guess to mention just, being born into the Eisenhower family, former President Dwight David Eisenhower is my great-grandfather. And I was definitely coming into the family with a strong mission to expose a lot that was not brought to light in his administration in connection with his relationship with extraterrestrials. Also, I was targeted. What I found out was before birth, in order to be kind of nudged onto a timeline I didn't really want to be on, connected to going off planet and being a permanent colonist on a Mars colony. And that attention was on me since childhood. And I believe that was psychotronic weapons. When I went to a clairvoyant institute, they helped me to understand this. And when I began to unravel the deeper layers of this level of targeting, I found out more about what tactics they used, including looking glass technologies. So I grew up just sort of had a pretty normal life compared to my mom, who was pretty young when Eisenhower was in office, spent a lot of time at the Gettysburg Farm, lived there. I went to the Gettysburg Farm around the time of Mamie, when she had just recovered from a stroke. At the time, like a couple months before she had passed, when I was about 4 years old, I remember holding her hand at the farm with my sister 4 months or so before she passed in 1979. And it was just very interesting growing up in this family because we were very close. My mom and her siblings, David Eisenhower, who married Julie Nixon's daughter, and my cousins, their 3 kids, we grew up very close, going to a lot of family gatherings, family reunions, Christmases and Thanksgivings. John S.D. Eisenhower, Eisenhower's son, who was the ambassador to Belgium and also served in the army, has a very interesting background, wrote a bunch of books about war. Him and I were very close, and he transitioned quite a number of years ago. But we just had some very interesting sort of conversations that helped me to really understand what kind of man he was and how he felt about Eisenhower becoming president. I didn't get a lot of family hidden info, right? A lot of people ask me, what did your family tell you? I was more asking a lot of questions like, what's going on with that meeting that Eisenhower supposedly had? And did he go off to a dentist? And who's Val Thor? And what do you guys know about Val Thor? And then I would bring up things about Mars recruitment, and the conversation kind of shifted pretty quick when I brought up those things. And it didn't feel like they were covering anything up. It felt like they weren't given that kind of information, or if they were told to not pass that on to our generation because of the level of targeting and amount of individuals that would be taken out for sharing this kind of information. They kind of watched from afar, me kind of going for it anyway. And they've always shared a lot of love and respect. Although we have not had these deeper conversations, there's always been a lot of mutual love and respect and support. Sort of from afar, we've more focused on family and children that have been born, the next generation, and then just family gatherings. David Eisenhower would bring over the karaoke machine and we'd do like duets together. And so I just had one of those kind of upbringings where I was going down a lot of rabbit holes. I was processing a lot, downloading a lot, very aware of this kind of mission that whether anybody believed me or not, I was going to do anyway. And so it was very interesting to have more of a voice, particularly starting in 2010, when I exposed the fact that I had been recruited to go off planet. And I began to meet other whistleblowers and people that had been talking about projects like Project Pegasus, Andrew Bashago, and other people along the way that I've gotten to know really well, in the last couple of years, like ELENA DANAAN, Tony Rodriguez, who all have very different stories. As we know, ELENA had an abduction contactee scenario starting in childhood, and her relationship with the Thorhan and then Val Thor, and then Tony Rodriguez and his story and his 20 and back, and some other experiencers and contactees like Alex Collier, that we have gotten to know each other and connected a lot of dots and been gathering together at these really profound conferences. And yeah, so I've been a public speaker, been traveling the world as of 2010, and just shedding a lot of light on this stuff, connecting a lot of dots, meeting a lot of profound people. And I got the honor of writing the foreword to Elena's book about her contact and communications with Val Thor. So I'll kind of leave it at that because I could keep going. But yeah, it's been a really interesting journey. And Eisenhower was very close to me. I never met him in person, but as of the very beginning of my childhood, when I first started to recall dreams and a lot of downloads and a lot of sort of contact experiences in dream time, and just a deeper soul sort of journey connected to understanding our galactic history and the multidimensional nature of things and our true divine inheritance on a DNA level, his presence was always there. And I was like, I recognized he was a family member. Then you see all these books on the shelf and like, oh my God, he was president and general of the Second World War. So that was a lot to process growing up when they were trying to sort of be or raise us sort of whatever normal is. As we sort of got older, they helped us to understand, but it was very difficult to wrap one's head around the extraterrestrial part of it and the things held in secrecy and the true history that has been rewritten about what happened after the Second World War with things like Project Paperclip. And what Elena and I have been able to connect dots about, what she really reassured me about, was that Eisenhower didn't sign any treaties with the Greys, and it was actually done behind his back via MJ-12. And so that was a huge relief and a huge weight off my shoulders, because so much of the blame about Eisenhower selling us out to the Greys has been really redeemed, or a lot of clarity has been brought to all of this when she validated, along with a few others, that he did not sign these treaties. And in actual fact, he set up some things related to the positive military to help us in these times to counteract the dark Draco ICC Nazi agenda. So she's helped shine a lot of light on this, a lot more than just shine a lot of light on this. Her mission helps to resurrect and uncover so much that has been lost to us as not just information, but something she truly embodies as a powerful wisdom keeper, somebody very close to the land in Ireland, a strong connection to the goddess energies, and a major contactee that gets galactic information like nobody's business. So it's incredible and such an honor to do so much with her. And thank you guys for having me.
More than welcome.
Oh my God.
Tom.
Yeah. That was a lot to take in.
Yes. A lot to take in.
But it's great having him. I wouldn't even know where to start here. I mean, there's so much to mine from, right? I mean, it's I guess pretty much everyone would want to ask a question. I think other listeners would want to know. It's like this relationship that Dwight had with extraterrestrial. I mean, where did that information first come from? Where did you first get wind of that? And how did you, or who told you that? Where did you get this information from, and who else in your family would know about this? I
think quite a few know about it. I think it's difficult for them to wrap their head around it. There's a lot of compartmentalism. I feel Eisenhower was only really able to warn us in his final speech. What he was able to share with family, I feel he was limited in what he could actually share. If he was able to share a lot, and family members like my mom and my aunts and uncle, whatever they might have known wasn't something that they were given permission to really pass along. So I don't really know. I remember my mom saying one time to me because I was always just trying to bring this stuff up. You give me a couple glasses of champagne at the Thanksgiving dinner, especially, right? Just kind of like, come on, let's talk about this. And it was something my mom eventually said that kind of stuck with me. We have needed to protect your generation from this information. And that's all she really said. Then the conversation really shifts real quick. But what I've come to understand is when there was that rumor of him going off to a dentist appointment, which others say was when there was the contact meetings, first with the Nordics and then with the Greys, that was sort of the cover story, right? But that chronology and that information might have been a cover story to sort of explain a false narrative, or part of a story that we didn't get the full picture of, that I'm getting more clarity about in meeting folks like ELENA DANAAN and what Alex Collier has said, and other folks along the way. And so when I was young, because I had a strong contact with the spirit of him, and I was a very multidimensional child, astral traveling all the time, and being prepared for this particular window period from what I believe was a very benevolent group of ETs, although it wasn't a regular encounter or something that I was experiencing to the level of somebody's contact experiences like ELENA. But I do remember some sort of encounter where I was looking through a viewfinder and it was showing me timelines. Eisenhower had something to do with me downloading certain information, sort of being by my side, kind of helping me process, sort of keeping me grounded, even though that didn't really work because that's kind of hard. But now I'm a little bit more grounded, but I could just feel his presence. And Elena's been able to pick up on this, and others, of just him, just, you know, messages coming through Valthor and him of just, you know, really being there and really kind of helping me with this. So a lot of it was intuition. What really hit me was when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and we were in the grocery store checkout line, and there was a article from the Weekly World News, which is considered a joke newspaper, the kind of newspaper that says like Fat Boys taking over New York City, or, you know, that kind of newspaper. Remember the Weekly World News, similar to The Onion? And I saw it on the shelf, though, as a kid, and it said that Eisenhower met with ETs. And I knew that that wasn't fully a joke.
I saw that article. I remember that article.
Remember?
Yeah,
right. I saw that at like 9 years old, and I was like, there's something to this. But when I was learning through the internet just on my own and going down the rabbit holes, because I was pre-targeted, because there was the Mars recruitment, because there was some attention on me to go off planet, and had something to do with Alternative 3 and things that were presented to the Eisenhower administration about what would happen in the event of Earth catastrophes, I determined that Alternative 3 must be connected to dark weaponry and artificial timelines, because I felt like we didn't have to evacuate Earth. And if there was some sort of apocalyptic Armageddon scenario, it might be engineered or induced through the use of these dark technologies. Not to say that there aren't events that can happen, not to say that there wasn't something well-intentioned about protecting the human genome and taking a certain number of humans off to Mars in the event that something might happen. It seemed like there was a certain manipulation that really alerted me to make sure I said no, and I refused to go to Mars. And I was really attached to this Earth and my mission on Earth, so it wasn't going to happen anyway, whether it was well-intentioned or not. I had just had a strong commitment and devotion to being here. But as I was connecting dots and going down those rabbit holes and doing the research, I knew something was off. And all I was hearing on the internet was Eisenhower signed a treaty with the Greys. There was first contact with the Nordics. And I was like, no, there's more, but I'm doing presentations and I'll share this to open up a greater conversation, that this is what I've heard. But then I brought in more information about contact or ET government involvement starting in the 1930s. And of course, we've been like dealing with ET like presence from thousands and thousands of years. Anunnaki, even before that. We have ET genetics. We've been dealing with extraterrestrials, and we are part of the greater galactic higher harmonic universes in our junk DNA that we need to switch on, right?
Agreed.
So I knew that there was much more to us as humans in relation to extraterrestrials, that eventually all the dots came together, and I just kept searching and found out more about what happened in the 1930s with the deep underground military bases and Hitler and Churchill and Aleister Crowley, and how that links to the Greys and the reptilians, and then the Nordics that weren't necessarily like working in our best interests. But a lot of factions and levels are on our side, I presume, and Elena would be able to clarify this a lot more. But I just kept searching, and then when I met her, and she validated that he did not sign the treaties, but MJ-12 did behind his back, then that was the ultimate relief, because that level of blame has been put upon him, and I've been receiving emails for the last 10 years or more of, your great-grandfather sold us out to the Greys, and, you know, you're Illuminati, and all this stuff. And it's just like, what do you do with that? And being raised in this family, doing hypno-regression work and really looking hard at who the Eisenhowers are. You know, we're not a trust fund family. We didn't show up at huge mansions, attending rituals, or doing any of the sort of things that you would see in some of the presidential bloodlines or MK or Illuminati families that I feel really came into the mix when the three-letter organization started to groom presidents as Manchurian candidates that had some sort of link to these bloodlines. Not all of them. I think some were just groomed and recruited. And Andrew Bashago and the Mars Training Program and Barry Soetoro being a part of that, and there being a link to going off planet to Mars, has something to do with the colonization of Mars, and that being sort of similar to what we see with underground bases as a safe haven with a chosen amount of individuals, but not something that is like something like, yay, this is for our protection.
Right.
There was something very, very dark and sinister about it. Although it was presented to me as like, oh, you know, you're lucky to be a chosen one. And I'm like, no. I can tell by that lingo that that's a huge red flag because we're all chosen ones. Love and wisdom is the chosen one on this planet. Any kind of manipulation like that is a huge red flag, because to me, it's like, it has something to do with what I found out. They didn't want me to blow the whistle. They wanted to divert my mission from Earth off planet to use me by manipulating me into thinking that we needed to leave and it's for my protection that we evacuated Earth. And I'm the kind of person that just digs deep. If it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to stop digging. And I'm glad that I didn't stop digging, because here I am today sitting next to you guys, able to talk about it. And didn't think that would happen, but didn't think it wouldn't, because I didn't want to project like.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting too, because my father was a politician. My father addressed the United Nations, and I grew up with the Roosevelt's grandchildren in Cherry Hills, Colorado. I lived there till I was about 2 or 3. And my father used to say to me, and again, he was in office 2 terms, that, you know, what we're experiencing is much closer to home than we realize. And I was always trying to figure out, what did he mean to, as a young age. And he believed that, you know, they're among us already. And our case went in support of General Assembly 33-426, October 2nd, 1992. And I saw he brought back all these articles, that a lot of stuff from 1974 for some reason. And I saw a lot of papers that to this day, you know, I still have in here in the house that I've never seen circulate before. So with that, I was wondering if you ever saw anything that you've kept to yourself as far as documents or anything goes. I remember seeing documents that came back from the UN that talked about fighter pilots being paralyzed to shoot, fire onto UFOs and this kind of thing. And I mean, it's all right there. And you never see it circulating. You never see this even in the, I've never seen anyone have what I have.
Right. Oh, that didn't quite work out. I certainly looked, but I didn't want to go into territory that was maybe, it was a completely different kind of scenario. And that's so wild, your upbringing. And, Roosevelt, that he really stood his ground in his administration, from what I heard, and didn't go along with the gray agenda. It was right kind of under his nose, but he had major boundaries to it, and really extraordinary administration. I can't wait to talk to you more about that. And I'd love to interview you and get to know you more. But no, I didn't really find those kind of documents. I found just all the documents and information connected to my Mars recruitment, how it linked to his administration and Looking Glass Technologies and something called the Orion's Cube and the Aviary, and how they were using my partner and kind of working along with him as the main group responsible for the recruitment. And they're not all bad guys. There's a lot of compartmentalism. There's a lot of people that are well-intentioned, that they sort of convinced are doing the right thing, and this is the best thing you could be doing for the human race. And there's a lot of plants, and there's a lot of disinfo agents that were a part of the Aviary, like Richard Doty, who I've heard, and I don't want to say or smear the guy, but I heard that a lot of the disclosure information and a lot of the documents that were presented in the UFO disclosure stuff were falsified documents that weren't really giving the full information. But I don't want to smear him. I don't really know, but that's kind of what I heard, is that some of the characters in that group were well known, at least. I was not the one who's just saying it, but some people have pointed out these individuals that were a part of the Aviary as being plants and disinfo agents that have really muddied the waters of disclosure and made it difficult. So Hal Puthoff was the handler of my partner. And there was a lot of communication and documents coming from their communications and how they target us in a previous lifetime through Looking Glass Technologies, so that they could use us as a couple that had a natural affinity to then use that as bait to try and get me off planet, because they weren't able to mind control me because I hadn't been put in those programs or projects, but they knew that they could heart control me, although it didn't work, by setting me up with a partner that I would fall in love with. And of course I'd go to Mars with him because I'm so in love. Well, fortunately, I didn't allow that to get the best of me. There were enough red flags and difficulties because he would go off on missions for days and not remember. And I knew that he was running alters. He would refer to a handler. And then I started to really realize, okay, this is not safe. And I was able to get out of it. It wasn't that easy. So all the documentation I ever was privy to was from my direct experience. I didn't get any documents growing up. But Eisenhower said, and my mom wrote this in the beginning of her book called Breaking Free, a memoir of love and revolution, which is by Susan Eisenhower, my mom, who gave me the last name as a mitochondrial inheritance, not my father. She wrote in the book that Eisenhower put a time capsule in the Gettysburg farm, not to be open until 2050, that gives all this hidden information about who his so-called friends and allies were who actually weren't, that we know about, of course. We've dug into that truth. But he exposed a lot in that time capsule that he wasn't able to share when he was leaving office. The only thing that he was able to leave us with, besides helping to set up the seeds of the Earth Alliance and the White Hats and the ICC, the USMC Special Section, Ike's Force it's called, and starting the seeds of all that, he wasn't able to share much except for the warning in the military about the military industrial complex. And that speech was changed subtly to keep out certain information and what was put in the time capsule. Now, if my family members have other hidden documentation, they are yet to hand it over to me, but I think they noticed, well, she has a big mouth anyway. It looks like she's coming across enough of it. Maybe we'll just avoid giving it to her, because God only knows it'll end up being a share screen on some of the interviews she does. And I think they're very protective over the grandkids and future generations. But I know, because I haven't been ostracized, and I think people are like, are you ostracized? Are they still talking to you? They thank me, they thank me with this sort of just underlying love and respect without putting to words what they're actually thanking me for. And I do the same for their part. And it just seems like together as a family, we all cover different bases, and the love is the stronger bond that keeps us really tight as a family without having these bigger conversations, because we can only gather so often. And if we were to start diving into this, we wouldn't be able to focus on family. We'd probably, and I've always encouraged other meetings. Can we all get together and have a family retreat?
Yeah.
It's so hard to pull that stuff off. It's like there's always something that gets in the way. And of course, with any kind of targeting, there's sometimes just things that just get in the way. I mean, like Elena and I know sometimes it's really hard to make it to these conferences. Sometimes it's hard to just push through some of the obstacles. And but who knows? I know I have a lot to talk with my Aunt Mary about. She had some connection with the Mars thing. Andrew Bishago told me. But again, it doesn't work so much at a family gathering to just bring this up when I'm usually at the kiddie table just hanging out with the kids, because it's like, let's just put Laura at the kiddie table. This is getting too intense for Thanksgiving dinner. So,
which is right around the corner again. Hey, so your mother is Susan, correct?
yes.
Susan, and in her book, does she have anything more about the connection with your family and extraterrestrials, or was it more of a book about other?
It's really me. I'm the only one in the family that talks about extraterrestrials and UFOs. I've read her books. She just came out with another one called How Ike Led, and these are the layers of the Second World War and his leadership. That is really accurate to history. But as far as the deeper levels that are above top secret, which is why even whistleblowers weren't able to expose this, Phil Schneider and William Cooper weren't even able to expose some things, because after 1947, laws were put in place to make this information so inaccessible that even the president had a hard time getting access. And that's why he was infuriated with what MJ-12 was doing and tried to invade Area 51. And actually, the original Dulce Wars was before the Dulce Wars that Phil Schneider talks about in the 1960s. So he tried to do something about it because he didn't have access and he lost control. And that, again, infuriated him.
And that was underground, too. Those were underground bases.
Either, but Val Thor is the one that helped to advise him about what he couldn't gain access to. If it wasn't for Val Thor, this would be a very, very different thing. And that's where Elena really... Sorry, what was that, Tom?
Oh, just saying, Schneider, that was about an underground base too, which is something I talk about connected to our case, but that's for another
That was Dulce.
Right. So Dulce connected to Phil Schneider, William Cooper, who wrote Beyond a Pale Horse. Very, very significant information, but there was still a level above top secret. Alex Collier talks about this, and other whistleblowers connected to MI16 about the moon unit of the three-letter organizations that not even some of the levels of this three-letter organizations have even heard of, right? So if it wasn't for Val Thor having a friendship and an alliance with Eisenhower and his administration and being put on 3 years of VIP status at the Pentagon and having the relationship that he did, I don't think Eisenhower would have even known to do what he did, to set up what he set up, and to give us that sort of really bold warning. I think Val Thor played the most significant role of all. Wouldn't you agree, Elena?
Yes, I would agree. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's Dwight who did the work, who signed the papers and set up all the new secret space programs, especially with the Navy, when Val Thor came to just help and boost the creation of programs that would later on become such a wonderful thing as Solar Warden, for instance, So, but yeah, Val Thor played a role in helping and supporting your great-grandfather to put these things in place and to have the courage to because it was hard. It was he had everyone against him, your great-grandfather, everyone against him. So nearly, So yeah. You know more than me about that. Then.
Yeah, no, definitely, and and I really felt into that and his emotions and how close he's still with us. And Val Thor and their presence, just still very close, working with the human race, really encouraging the awakening of starseeds, the awakening of all of us as leaders, knowing that the government structure doesn't work, knowing that it wasn't all about putting it on one man or just any way that this structure has been set up. There's just some really beautiful communication that came through, really encouraging just the awakening leaders and starseeds who have divine missions that sometimes really question themselves because of all the stigmas, because of how the school systems and the indoctrination really cast these really intelligent, advanced souls as having learning disabilities or not being able to sit still. And I know I was one of those kind of kids, and I know a lot of you guys were too. And and I I felt such a closeness, and just really felt into just his emotions and just not really being able to achieve what Val Thor wanted to achieve with his administration, but how he still, Val Thor and Victor 1 and the motherships connected to Venus, never left us. And again, Elena has much more info on that. Her whole book gets so deep into the depths of it all. So my intro was only really able to share my part of my relationship with Eisenhower, and I was told he was briefed about a descendant being born, able to shed a lot of light on things he wasn't able to bring attention to. And I know he did set up a lot of the positive aspects of the secret space program and the military. But yeah, through Val Thor and through, the leadership of what Elena represents, being able to bring and shed light to all this, and her extraordinary contact experiences after her first encounter or the abductions that she had as a child. It's so incredible to feel these missions colliding and merging and the dots connecting, and then meeting you, Tom, and you, Tim, and your stories and the events that you're putting on and all the different people that show up and are on the panel. It's so wild to finally be having this dialogue on such a large, such a small group of individuals. I really feel like, don't you guys feel like it's really rippling out and it's really touching a lot of people now more than it ever has?
Yeah, it's no longer just a good old boy show. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a lot of people that I think, I think obviously over the last 3 or 4 years, people are getting more comfortable talking about it, whereas they're worried about their jobs and all this kind of thing. But something I want to ask you too, I've got the strong feeling of that the O negative blood group plays a part in this. I ask myself why certain people seem to be connected to this and others don't. And I've used this analogy like, a breed or a species within a species, that kind of thing. Like maybe there's a connection to certain people, and that's why they and their families seem to have this ongoing experience. And I was wondering if you believe that, Laura, or do you think it's just a random selection type of thing, or just wrong place at the wrong time? Or do you think that there's something more in us that makes us more part of something else? Like, some of us, our body temperatures run at 97.1, some at 98. It's almost like there's a different group of species within a species that might have a stronger connection to an extraterrestrial ancestor.
Yes, I absolutely feel that way. I feel that our different blood types show a different lineage or connection with a different star system or a different group. I mean, you have the Elohim, you have the Seraphim, you have fallen angelics, which I don't like to just use the term fallen without saying that they can rise again and resurrect, because we're in a free will universe. The development of ego and free will has created a lot of adventures for a lot of different beings and star systems and groups, and we are the divine inheritors of these archetypes, of these ET races. And I feel like we have to reconcile these forces within ourselves to then emit a frequency that shows harmony, that shows wholeness, that shows the activation of dormant DNA, that connects us with higher harmonic universes and our galactic history and our genetic inheritance to something, that I feel we share the codes and we share the DNA, right? So if there's 7 root races and 5 cloister races, 7 root races and 5 cloister races, 5 being star seeds, 7 plus 5 is 12. And we're here to rebuild our DNA architecture, the tree of life architecture, so that we're functioning at 12 strand and beyond. I feel that all our differences and diversities are meant to work together in harmony and to be integrated so that we can be whole again, that we help switch each other on. There might be something that you have that I don't, and vice versa. You might be carrying an O negative. I might be carrying, whatever, or somebody, without, having to name and give out all our info. It doesn't matter. I mean, not like we have anything to hide, but to me, the positive and negative is like the electric and magnetic. It has got a negative charge or positive charge. Then you've got the positive and negative blood types, right? So I feel if there's a negative, then the polarity would be positive. So we might seek those that have the opposite in order to switch that on so that we can have the whole electromagnetic spectrum ignited in our being, because that integration of polarity, that right and left brain, connection of the divine masculine and feminine that is within our DNA and the planetary grid network, I feel like we're called to carry something specific, and it might align us more with extraterrestrials or contact experiences than another. But those that might be more earth-based, that might be in the positives or connected to a lineage that is more about earth light working versus galactic sort of contactee work, if we connect all the dots, we are grounded with the root system of the tree of life and the branches that go into the galactic and multidimensional. And between all of us, if we can unite in unity consciousness, we can help switch on what's dormant so that we can all embody the wholeness of the tree of life template. That's just my theory. That's just what I'm thinking.
Good one.
It doesn't mean that, like, it doesn't mean that you give up your post, right? And what you have, what you embody.
That's where I go with all this. That's how I feel too. But I'm married an A negative wife. My son is a B negative. I'm O negative. My mother and father are O negative and A negative. So 9 of us in our immediate family are all RH negative.
Yeah, and you might not need to integrate the pod. I mean, you just being on Earth. I mean, it's not like a one size fits all. Especially when there's just sort of I mean, I am not necessarily attracting my opposites. It's okay. My husband has got more fire signs than I do. I've got like a lot of air and water. Right. Okay. Anyway, but I mean, just even friends or community. I mean, looks like you're with your soul family and soul tribe, right? But some people might just attract the opposite, but not always opposites attract, right? Sometimes birds of a feather flock together. I mean, it's not a one size fits all. I think it's just as a humanity, though, in unity consciousness, we all either hold positive, negative, A, B, O. And if we can all get together in unity consciousness and allow diversity in harmony to create the true oneness, then we can help each other restore or switch on what's dormant so that we can embody, the groundedness that we need with the Mother Earth, who is a multidimensional being, with the branches going into the realms of spirit and higher dimensional energies. And that between all of us, we complete the whole zodiac, the 12 houses, the 12 signs, with the presence of the 13 that connects us with the ether element that helps us to purify from any contamination or toxicity that's gotten into our organs, our cells, or any DNA damage that we might have passed on or inherited. And that we're all healing together somehow. And yes, we all are a combination of 23 different genetic lines, that as well. And what's interesting is I could keep going on. I'll be quiet. But
I just wanted to say I'm not negative. I'm O positive. So I'm the opposite side of the
Well, my husband's O positive.
So there you go.
What are you, Laura?
I'm B positive.
You are positive? And what about Elena?
I don't disclose my blood type.
You don't disclose it? Okay. I'm O negative. But
I mean, normally I might not, but I mean, I can understand Elena, but that is what it is. I mean, that's at least.
Why do you think?
I remember. I mean, I haven't tested it in a while. I don't know if they got the test wrong. I don't know if it changes over time. Sometimes it has to do with copper in the blood. It has to do with certain things that you might have a deficiency in, that if you correct that deficiency, maybe your blood type changes. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe
Right.
Elena knows more than I
Right.
do.
Why do you think that a different blood type would control your entire
You
body?
can't change it, right? No, Elena?
Oh, your
I
body.
don't know. I don't know. I
You
don't
know,
have the answer.
yes, but let's say that's possible, right? Let's just say that it is possible to mutate and change, right? Right now, my body temperature runs at 97.1. So if it were to mutate and change, would my body temperature adjust with it? Does your blood type control your body's temperature, or is it what they consider to be junk DNA? That's part of it too, because there are people whose bodies run on 2 degrees different than someone else's. So there is proof or scientific evidence that there is a difference in human species.
I've always heard that it's the electromagnetic field of your body that controls your body temperature. It has nothing to do with the blood.
All good questions. I mean, I know, over the course of time, when we change from infancy to teenage years to young adulthood to being in our hormones change too. And I know my body temperature kind of changed. Or when I get really embarrassed and flushed, it's like,
Yeah, but that's a spike.
no, I know. I'm just kind of kidding.
It's just a question.
One thing
No, I
I
know.
wanted to ask you, Laura, is in regards to the Orion's cube, wasn't that given to us under treaty, and only part of the cube was explained so that they could use it for time lensing?
Yeah, I'm kind of looking it up right now. I saved all this in my old emails. So hold on. I should be able to find it here. Some of the messages from 2006 connected to the Mars recruitment.
It was in Project Stargate, wasn't it?
Project Stargate was connected to some of the Mars recruiters. But Orion's Cube, from what I understand, is connected to Looking Glass Technologies and things related to
Looking Glass, that's it.
Looking Glass and timelines. Elena, do you know much about Orion's Cube specifically?
I know a bit about the cube technology that the Orion Tall Greys used, what we call the Orion Group. They base all their technology about cubes, because the cube is an atomic structure that is able to contain black goo, and it is able to stabilize it, and they use it for different sort of type of technologies. I know 2 very famous black cubes that are known. The one that was on Saturn, planet Saturn, that
The black
was
cube?
broadcasting, receiving a signal. In fact, it's quite recent information that Alex and I had received. The black cube that was on one of the moons of Saturn was getting a signal from the Orion Hive, the bigger cube that is in the Orion Nebula, and it was receiving that signal. The planet Saturn was amplifying the signal, and it was sending it, bouncing it to Earth Moon.
Right, the Saturn Moon matrix you're talking about, right?
Yeah, Saturn Moon, and the Moon had another cube device, smaller, that was broadcasting in on Earth to lock Earth into like a prison planet, a 3rd density locked down. And of course, all of this has been dismantled and destroyed. But I know that. And also, what is interestingly, the center of the Orion Hive in the Orion Nebula M42 is called Kaba, and it means cube. And it's not a properly cube, it's a cluster, so star cluster, the trapezium. So the trapezium cluster, until now, when I was told, yes, it's called the cube, Kaba, it has an interdimensional portal in it, and it's the center of the hive where the queen is. I went, but the trapezium, it's flat. I mean, it's 4 stars. 4 doesn't make a cube. And yes, it is. Well, NASA recently discovered that there was another cluster behind it that makes it in volume. And there are stars behind it. It makes like kind of a cube. It was mind-blowing. So I know this about these 2 cubes, and it's a bit tricky to mention the Kaaba Mecca cube as well. So I leave it like this.
Yes, yes. And as far as Orion's cube and its connection to the black cube and the red cube and the stuff that I've heard about as far as cubes go, I'm not quite sure, but probably because of the connection with the Orion Wars and the connection of the artificial components of the moon and how that relates to the rings of Saturn and how that transmits on humans to create this sort of imbalance in the patriarchal agenda that impacts both men and women, because Saturn has a lot to do with the dark Saturn, has to do with tyranny and control, and of course the dark element of Saturn where it used to be a sun, and then the artificial component of the moon with the lunar base and the activity of, you know, the fact that it's kind of like got a whole sort of thing going on inside of it. It's like a Death Star kind of, right?
It's hollow. Yeah, it's like,
just real quick before I just want to hand more over. But yes, I have these emails saved from 2006 from the Mars recruiters. And this is what I always remember. This always stuck with me is it says right here is that the Looking Glass project has never been able to look into the future beyond 2012. The stream of radiation that unfurls out of the Hanaku, which is connected to the Mayan galactic core, is what is responsible for the fact that the area of space our solar system has moved into in the last 3 years is 100 times more highly charged with background radiation. This is what is causing the quickening. Between this and the manipulations of HARP and certain extraterrestrial forces that care nothing for us, humans will continue to act more and more manic in many places. So there was a lot of positive elements to what my partner was able to bring through. If he didn't have alters, if it didn't seem like there was a manipulation that was messing with him. Because you know how many times I questioned because of the positive elements of where he was coming from? Was I supposed to go to Mars? You know, that was a huge responsibility. Elena reassured me so much. And she feels that Valthor really helped me because he said that he made a vow to Dwight that he would look out for his descendants, that his assistance helped to make sure that I didn't go, even though my partner at the time was very wary of the dark ETs and was sharing with me stuff about Looking Glass and how they couldn't see past 2012. So I was thinking, if we can't see past 2012, why aren't we the co-creators then? Why aren't we empowered to create something beyond 2012 where we are working on the organic ascension timeline and with Mother Earth, this ascending planet that is multidimensional and connected to the galactic? And that's what I love about you, Elena, because you have such a strong connection to the land, to Ireland, to just all the spirit, you know, the Druidism and the spiritual knowledge and wisdom that you hold and your galactic connections, that it just kind of proves these points. So I just wanted to shut up and say that real quick about Looking Glass Technologies. But are you resonating with what I'm sharing, Elena, or am I going off on a weird tangent here?
Oh, yes, totally. And the connection, you know, to be a conduit, that's what contactees and emissaries and like channelers or whoever is in contact. To be a conduit, you need to be okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes.
me? You need to be grounded in Celtic shamanism, which I practice. The tree must have as many roots as branches. It needs to be a balance from between above and below. And when it's perfect harmony, you can just go through the conduit and connect the sky to the earth. And so I totally agree. It's an alchemy between earth and sky. And that's what it is to connect, you know?
Yes, and that's what it's just such a major thing, because I mean, I feel such a connection to the land, to Ireland, Scotland, and England. I was born in England, not that that matters much, but just that's always been so strong in me, and the labyrinth and just all the going into just the understanding of the land and being reborn, and the alchemy of connecting to the land and the mother womb, the creative cauldron of creation, and how the hell realms and the duality, you know, and the tree of good and evil, and that level of duality has made it very difficult without gaining self-knowledge. And so to me, the path of gaining self-knowledge has been targeted with mind control and social engineering and indoctrination, so that when people think that they're gaining knowledge, it's all externalized and they're getting a lot of false narratives. And that's a huge trap that makes it very difficult to do that alchemy. Yeah. So that's what I love about, that's why I feel such a strong affinity, and like I've known you forever, and that feeling of home the minute I met her.
It's really,
we understand each other.
I gotta say, it's really difficult to discern the truth from the false narratives and from the rhetoric that's being spouted, which is so negative. I mean, to remain a good person in life is really difficult with how they're pushing everybody toward negative response.
Yes.
And I can see that as negative influence coming from elsewhere because of an agenda.
I have a good tip is, does it bring people together or does it work at separating people? That's all. That's my tip.
I think it helps me bring people together because I strive toward being a better person because I'm around such negativity and I don't want to reflect that in my life. So I've been working on that. I mean, I met Tom and we've become very good friends, and that is a blessing in my life. It really is.
Wow, thank you.
And I've met you two ladies as well, and I find that very fulfilling as well.
Yeah.
What I wanted to ask you, Laura, was about this image that I showed you beforehand, and Elena, feel free to address it as well. I know we touched base on it in our last interview, and I want to get more into it. In regards to this chakra system, in regards to reaching your inner energy, to focus on your inner energy, to raise your frequency, this is the image I have. Can you explain the colors and how to actually facilitate this action to where we can actually reach out to off-world visitors such as yourself?
Yes, and I'll kind of keep it short because I know people. Elena was coming on for support, so I wouldn't be talking so much. I know you're kind of directing the questions at me, but it's just so amazing to have you here, Elena. Thank you for just being here with me, and it's great to be. So I mean, this is how I feel. I mean, the root chakras, the lower chakras, right? You got your red, and if you even look at it, the first sign of the zodiac is Aries Mars, right? And that's a very fiery energy. That's fire. It doesn't necessarily need to just be like, I mean, and then you look at like violet, you look at the purples, you see the colors of the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and you look at the 7. I mean, if you look at 7 chakras though, the 7th sign is Libra, right? There are many more chakras than the 7. So what I feel is that the galactic chakras need to be integrated into the lower so that we're not floating back and forth between higher, lower self, so that we aren't just expanding our 7th chakra and looping back into just sort of the 7 chakra system, but that we're able to open up the galactic chakras, because the 7 planetary logos has been somewhat distorted and infected. And when we're looping just in the 7, I feel that's part of the time loop, and that's part of the wheel of necessity that we sort of need to break. Because when we go into the higher universal galactic chakras and we begin to download it, particularly like our 4th chakra, which vibrates at green, then that color actually changes to a blue lotus. The frequency of the heart chakra actually changes, because the 4th chakra all on its own sometimes is subject to energetic cords, sometimes the imbalance of giving too much and not receiving enough, not knowing how to love the self but overly loving others, or maybe having judgments and like, you know, an imbalanced heart towards others, and being all full of the self, right? Which was also connected to the 3rd chakra, which is the ego, right? So when we see the separation of the 7 chakras, that's not a bad thing, but we'll see different combinations based in a person's zodiac map, can reveal some, but we also see the need to integrate polarity, to overcome certain negative patterning, and to begin to embrace the initiations of the outer planets like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Pluto takes us into death, rebirth, alchemy, transformation. Uranus takes us into the shock and upheavals that lead to great awakening. Neptune connects us to the multidimensional and spiritual, right? And like Neptune rules Pisces, but Neptune is also the higher octave of Venus, and it goes on and on and on. So I guess my point is, as we integrate polarity, as we merge our ego with our soul essence, our higher heart, our chakra system actually changes. When we move beyond the 7th chakra, the 8th and 9th actually forms an infinity spiral connecting to the skull, the back of the skull, right? And supposedly there's been ethereal implants put here so that we wouldn't activate this, because what people might notice is when you begin to move beyond the 7th chakra, and the 7th chakra, of course, connects us with source, but there's been implants, there's been distortions on a spiritual level. People very often give their power away to a religion or a guru or a priest without having that direct connect, which sometimes keeps us looping, right? And in some kind of like imbalance. But with the activation of the infinity spiral, when people start to reach this and get further on their spiritual path, these higher harmonic universes and upper strands of our DNA and galactic chakras actually hold alchemical marriage, hierogamic union, and the true divine love story of the Christ Sophia. That for us to activate dormant DNA, we need to recognize the greater love story and divorce ourselves from the imposters that siphon and harvest our energy, that implant our chakra system, our energy centers, that put chips or distortions in our energy field that aren't the positive kind, right? So when we begin to activate these galactic chakras in our dormant DNA, that's when psychic attack increases. And very often when a person starts to reach those levels and they get the attack, they feel very defeated. They feel like they're failing on their spiritual path. And they might just be like, I don't feel sovereign, or I feel attacked. Sometimes they'll feel defeated. And a lot of times people go into a downward spiral and might just grab a vice or an addictive behavior or turn to alcohol or drugs, because especially the empaths and the really sensitive souls, that, there is a certain level of targeting when we begin to break through the limitations of where we are still being held as food sources. So I don't know, that's very wordy. It might not have made a whole lot of sense. I think Elena probably can put it a lot better and maybe in different words.
I couldn't put it better. Well, if I have to comment on that, is that the best love story, as you mentioned it, is within ourselves, uniting the polarity of masculine and feminine, the animus and the anima of our being, and this creates the alchemical stone, the child of light, our power, our unified soul, and this is invincible. The dark side always has always tried to stop us to perform this hierogamic union, because when we do it, we become invincible, and they cannot use us anymore as whatever to use us for. So best love story, it's in us.
Totally. And that achievement is really how we can be sovereign. And that also helps us to attract soulmates, soul family, and that greater union outside of us. But it's not about sometimes it's easy to just be waiting for that love to come, or externalizing it about just needing, but we have to realize that true love story is achieved within ourselves. And that's such a beautiful thing to always remember. And that really helps shift our reality, the synchronicities that show up, the way we notice things that are a reflection of who we are as spiritual co-creative beings, instead of things that reinforce fear, anxiety, disconnect, or the need to externalize things to hope that somebody comes and saves us, or love rescues us. We need to do the inner work and do the shadow work. So the 7 chakra system is very powerful because we get to tap into all those layers, feel into the health of it. Do we have a constricted solar plexus? Are we internalizing our power? Is our power and ego identity not merged with our soul? Is it sort of running a subpersonality based in a social engineering agenda that is kind of creating personality types that maybe aren't truly true to who we are? Are we running an ancestral pattern or some sort of trauma that we're disguising with an ego identity to delay doing the deeper work because we're embarrassed or we're afraid of what other people think? I mean, to me, humility and doing the greater work is the most courageous thing we can do and shows great strength. But we're not taught that. We're taught, we have to have success. We have to achieve this and that. We have to look like we always have it together. And, and I mean, that's important, but I think people will recognize with me, I'm not afraid to show when I'm not. I'd prefer not to, and kind of maybe not be on the computer when those times happen. But we can't be afraid of being authentic and true to ourselves. And sometimes it means that we face those difficult aspects that can be reassuring that we're not alone, so we can all hold hands and rehabilitate together.
Right. We need to unite. That's a big thing that we're trying to do through this channel is unite people, bring people together. Right, Tom?
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more that, you have to actually love yourself first before you can love anybody else. And if you're not true to yourself, you're not going to like yourself, and no one else is going to like you either, because you're going to be miserable. So if we want to live a fake life and try to be something else or what we're told to be like, You know, I just say, look, if you enjoy something, it feels good, do it. You know, I mean, that's going to be you, if it's going to make you feel good about yourself and you're going to connect with yourself. And then that's where that inner joy comes from. That's where I don't think enough people do that. You know, they choose a job they don't like, they get involved with someone who's not supportive, and then they become, you know, saddened, and it takes them away from what the path they're supposed to be on. That fork in the road gets divided, right? And they're not true to themselves anymore, and it happens to a lot of people.
And their self-worth can sometimes be held captive by somebody, you know, who's kind of manipulative, and then they own your self-worth, and then you feel less than, or, you know, and I think a lot of people have survived abusive relationships or narcissists. It doesn't matter if it's coming from the female side or male side. That's what the thing is. You know, it's not about, you know, when we talk about the return of the divine feminine, it's also the return of divine masculine. It's all about harmony and union of both coming together, not one overriding the other. And I think breaking through some of the wounds of being in an imbalanced relationship and what it does to one's self-esteem, and surviving the school systems of what they determine is self-worth when it's a false version. You know, we can have self-worth and abundance means something completely different than what we were taught and what we are told. So I love what you guys are sharing.
Those senses that we have, we've got to be free to do that. We can't be bombarded with negative energy and still feel that we're going to connect and have that same intuitive or spiritual feeling about something, because we're being suffocated and bombarded with negativity. So,
and if we're living a lie, how are we going to have the discernment to see through false narratives? If we don't run a truth frequency, we're going to fall prey to lies and deceptions and distortions, because our frequency is matching that. If we're in a truth frequency, we can cut through a lot easier. But I want to be quiet and listen to ELENA more, because I know we are going to save the rest of it to listen to her more. So I'm just going to kind of sit back.
Are you sure? Because we kind of cut you short. You didn't have much to say there. It was like a 2-hour show in 45 minutes.
I thought I'd be talking slower.
You know, it's great. I appreciate it.
Actually, I've learned a lot from you. Yeah. So you can continue to comment as well, because this interview is mainly about you. But I do have some things I would like to ask ELENA. ELENA, could you elaborate a little bit on your book, The Cedars, The Return of the Gods?
Okay, thank you. Well, this is the story of the coming back of the Intergalactic Confederation, a group of 24 different cultures who have worked on the genome of humanity a very long time ago, and who have gifted humanity with all these genomes, different strands of DNAs, and who have been looking after humanity all this time. You know, that was several hundreds of thousand years ago. And my book is about my encounters with them, which occurred just a year ago, and all the messages they deliver to humanity, why they are here. And there are also, there's a story, a list of all the data that happened, that confirmed all of this information, be it by political events or NASA or whatever, you know, it's been all confirmed. So it's about this. And other extraterrestrials I've been in contact with, you know, the Intergalactic Confederation is under a greater management that they call the Nine, who are plasmic supra-consciousnesses who live in the void in between the universes, just in the behind the curtain, as I would say. So it's my contact with these consciousnesses as well. That was an experience that changed my whole life. So brutally that I mean, when you go through this, you're never the same. And although I am someone who has been working, healing my traumas, on empowering myself, being clear and clean with myself, I still had little emotions that I hadn't, you know, dealt with, and that just exploded and came to the surface. These encounters just like they blow your mind. And then I started to receive more messages, And also, it's my encounter also with an extraordinary man whose name is Ia, is better known as Enki. And also, I had 2 hours conversation with him. It was a privilege. And I am just talking about what he has to say to humanity. So that's the Cedars, nearly 600 pages. Yes, that's it.
I do have a cover of your book that we could show people. This is the cover of her new book, The Cedars, Return of the Gods by ELENA DANAAN. It's available on Amazon, so please check that out. Elena, is it available anywhere other than Amazon?
It's available as an ebook on Google Play and also on Barnes and Nobles, paperback and
Barnes and Nobles, good. Okay, I do have a little video clip to play that will highlight your cedars. This is the clip that we discussed before the live stream, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, here we go.
I am beyond thrilled to introduce you to my new book, The Cedars, The
That's
Return,
the long video, by the way.
with a foreword from Alex Collier and other nice words from different people. A portal opened into the understanding of our future. And this future for humanity of Earth, it is time we embrace it. And it is time we embrace with honesty the true awareness of who we are. We must let go of the shyness and the doubts, for we have way more potential than what we think. The matrix has fallen, and we see now with better clarity, reclaiming our light. Here comes the beautiful dawn of consciousness for the humans of Earth. Many of you felt a change in my frequency since I met the Cedars. It's true. And it couldn't have been otherwise. These types of experience are breathtaking. Life will never be the same again anymore. Some say I've changed In truth, I haven't. I just got instead closer to who I truly am. Meeting the Nine and the Cedars had a tremendously transformational effect upon me. It attuned me with the most profound honesty of who I am. It attuned me to my soul essence. From this moment, I fully acknowledge who I am. When you reach this level of awareness of yourself, and of course, people perceive you differently. Some may even say or freak out because they do not understand. They do not recognize you, although you are even more yourself than before. You know, this is how you are all meant to evolve. Not to change, but to get closer to who you truly are, to your true nature. People do not have an aggressive response to a higher frequency, but they do to something they are not used to deal with, to understand. And I believe that what may scare them is the inner personal trigger that these new frequencies carry. In October 2021, I was made aware by Thor Han, my contact in the Galactic Federation of Worlds, that huge intergalactic fleet had arrived in our solar system through a portal located behind Jupiter, and that this fleet would be stationed around the Jovian moon Ganymede. I had never met with this entirely new group of aliens before, and I surely signified that great change were on the way. Humanity of Earth had entered a moment in its history when time and space are truly understood for what they really are. A great evil has left the planet, and we can all feel the changes in the energies. It's in the air we breathe. It's in the beat of our hearts. It is all around us. It's something that was once incredibly heavy and old, and that thing has lifted. It is not there anymore. It's gone. It's gone. Can't you feel it? Can't you feel the new frequency? A long time ago, visitors from other galaxies left on our planet some amazing gifts that would one day lift humanity to a new level of civilization and consciousness. This day has now come. These visitors are back. We are ready. The love that animates their heart has never failed us, because they are our family. They are the 24 founders, the foremothers and the forefathers of humanity in this galaxy, and they are back to witness our blossoming. They are very proud of us because it wasn't an easy task for us down here, breaking millennia of slavery and extracting the human races of Terra from the claws of the darkest empires this galaxy has ever known. The Cedars are back And they want to meet us and lift us into our legitimate and glorious future. They promised they would come back when we are ready to truly understand who they are. And it would seem that this moment has come. We have crossed the bridge to meet them halfway. My personal series of meetings with these beings of the Intergalactic Confederation led to unexpected encounters with incorporeal, immortal, supernatural consciousness calling themselves the Nine. The 24 intergalactic Cedar cultures relate to them, to the Nine, as a higher management. And following their guidance, the Cedars are looking after the balance of life in the universe. For me, the contact with the Nine was life-changing, stirring my emotions on a very deep level, and it propelled my consciousness and my life into realms I never thought existed. This book relates all of my extraordinary, exhilarating off-world encounters and adventures with these new visitors, sharing with you uncharted domains of reality. This book also will take you to other star systems, other galaxies. I will lead you. You can hold my hand by reading these lines and travel with me. You will love it. You will love it. So today, September 21st, 2022, is the day at the doors of the equinox on Terra, when this book is available, and with it, the knowledge that it contains, that was not only given to me, but the knowledge I remembered as well. I am going to share with you something that has never been shared before. The true history of this planet, Terra. Knowing this was coming, because what is written is written. Knowing this was coming, the dark forces prepared a counter attack, which is a confusion, to just try to drown what they cannot suffocate. But they are failing, because you cannot suffocate the truth. They've tried everything. Remote viewing, NDAs, nothing worked. And I am here today. And this knowledge is now available to the world. These ancient people who came from other galaxies were considered as gods. They were not gods. They were just people. And they are back. And they have a tremendous gift for humanity, which will set humanity free for the first time. This gift is already given and soon implemented in the technologies you will have access to once the dark ones are eradicated on this planet. And that is your job. Yes, it is time. It is time, you know. and the knowledge I've been asked to retain until this book is published, I can now speak freely about it. And it is such a release. Great times are coming, my friends from Terra. Great times.
That was a beautiful video, Elena. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you. Well, that's all said about it.
There were a couple of really cool moments there. I like when you said they'll try to drown what they can't suffocate, and then it's so true. You know, if there's never going to be an end to someone coming after you. You know.
Oh my God, they're still after me, but it has calmed down because they tried anything, any ways possible to stop me publishing this book. You know, that's why I had such a high level of security at the conference in Orlando where we went, because there was death threats, there was direct energy weapons attempt twice, there was, oh my God, NDAs tried. The list is long. So, I have good mentors upstairs and good mentors and friends also on Earth, an amazing community of people who help me go through this and focus on the mission. And without the people, all the people who love me and support me, that would have been really more difficult. So I went through this thanks to everyone.
Yeah, I got another question for you too. And I practically lived in Orlando. I got in the beginning of your video, it says, "Who fought for custody of Earth?" Who
Sorry?
fought for custody of Earth?
Who
It was in
fought
your
for the
video?
custody of Earth? Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Can you shed some light on what you meant by that?
Of course. There has been several waves of extraterrestrials coming to Earth in our past, and everyone had tampered with genetics. The first ones were reptilians, calling themselves Naga, and they claimed the Earth for themselves because they were the first extraterrestrials to come, but nobody owns it. Right. So then the Intergalactic Confederation came, they kicked the reptilians out. They came back later, of course, but then that was the first war for custody, and then the Anunnaki came, and then several waves of everyone came.
What years do you think this was?
The Anunnaki, I think the Intergalactic Confederation came, I don't know, it's in my book, about 60 or 80 million years ago. And then maybe I may be wrong on that, but I know the Anunnaki arrived 372,000 years ago. And there's been different waves.
And the reptilians were first here?
Yes, first here. They started to terraform the planet as they wanted and develop reptilian life forms for them to just move it, you know. But that process was aborted because the seeders arrived and went, okay, no, that's wrong. So we're going to try to reestablish the balance on this planet and allow all life forms to grow, you know.
Do you think there's a battle or a struggle with different extraterrestrials? Do you think that they all have different agendas, or do you think they're kind of on the same page? Or what do you think about because a lot of people have a lot of different experiences. Some are horrifying to them. Some are more spiritual. We all kind of have a little different experience, if you will. Do you think that, what we're seeing now or what people are experiencing is a mix of a multitude of different species, or do you think it's just the way they perceive what happened to them, even though maybe it's all everybody's kind of experiencing the same thing, but they perceive it differently?
There are many different groups who either work together or either fight against each other. You have empires, galactic scale empires, like the Orion Greys, the Sikaar reptilians. These are the two most nefarious empires. They are competitors, but they know how to ally when they have common interests, like Earth, for instance. So these ones are either fighting each other or either collaborating. And they have a big enemy. It's the Alliance, the Galactic Alliance, which is mainly driven by the Galactic Federation of Worlds. That these are the positive ones: the Galactic Federation of Worlds, the Andromedan Council, the Council of Five, and that these form together the Alliance. They try to bring balance and justice in the galaxy. All these groups they fight by sometimes the intermediary of planet civilizations, for like Earth, for instance.
What do you think the bottom line is? What do you think the goal is that they're all, that they're going after, that they're looking for, they're trying to adjust or fix? Or do you think it's a spiritual enlightenment?
Different groups, different agendas, different purpose. The Greys, the Orion Greys, the Tall Greys, the Nebu Empire, expansion, assimilation. The Sika reptilians, expansion of the empire, of the power and the possession of the resources. Galactic Federation of Worlds and the Alliance, let's say in the Alliance now, the other side, the good side, Galactic Federation of Worlds, preserving all life.
Yeah, that's what I would say too.
Serving, and they have this beautiful symbol, and they do this serve and preserve.
Mhm.
Serve and preserve. I love that. That's what they do. Maintain justice and balance. Try to be
I've always
fair with.
too. I've always said that Earth is our galaxy's arc.
Yeah, and even intergalactic. Even we can
Yeah.
do that. Say that. And the Council of Five is looking after the evolution, the spiritual evolution of more advanced races, and trying to help and support spiritual evolution and consciousness evolution of different races. And the Andromedan Council does a little bit the same. Zenaid, or Zenatean Alliance, which is located in the constellation of Andromeda, that we call Andromeda. That's what they do. But I would say spiritually, the highest level in this galaxy is the Andromedan Council. These are the highest, and wisdom, spirituality, everything. So these are kind of the
Laura, I have a question for you. You're
Yes.
muted. Okay. In regards to Solar Warden, is it their job to restrict our planet from knowing the ET presence?
From what I've come to understand, it's more to protect us from any invaders. There is supposedly a barrier put around the Earth in 2014 related to the sphere beings and the Guardians. And I feel Solar Warden has some sort of connection to protecting the planet from further invasion, while also holding some here so that they can't really escape so easily and just move on. Earth Alliance, I'm a little bit more familiar with, and Ike's Force, and how Project Moonshadow relates to diverting secret space program super soldiers who have had 20 impacts, how to divert their abilities to serve the more positive. Solar Warden, I know certain individuals that seem compromised now that claim to have been a part of Solar Warden. I don't know if something happened there. Elena, do you know anything about that? Do you want to speak on Solar Warden?
Yeah, I know someone who is Jean-Charles Moyen, who was in Solar Warden. He was on board the Solaris. He was part of the secret space programs, French, US conjoint space program. So it's Solar Warden is the fleet of the Earth Alliance, and it's been created by the Navy. Now it's been started to be shared because with other military factions, good ones on Earth. I don't know the details about that, but I know it's expanding and developing. It's now included in the Artemis Accord as well. So the fleet of the Alliance and the Earth Alliance, and they protect Earth from space invasions, and they preserve safety zones of peace where no one needs to fight.
Right. And what I think there's some connection with Ike's Force. What Randy Kramer brought forward back in, what year was this? 2014, when he first reached out to me, he said President Eisenhower in late 1953 signed into law using a secret executive order the USMC SS special section, in his own words, to keep those MJ-12 boys in check. It didn't work like he hoped, but we're still trying to be the checks and balances for MJ-12. He was manufactured into the program as property of the USMC SS as part of the super soldier program, Project Moonshadow, under the larger umbrella of a global program called Project Mannequin. So this somehow, the Mars Defense Force and the Earth Defense Force and the Earth Alliance, you're saying, Elena, right, has a connection to Solar Warden, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So
the
Solar
Earth
Warden
Alliance,
is kind of the outer layer, kind of monitoring on more of a space level,
yes,
protecting us from the invaders, where the other ones are more ground military that do missions.
yes. The Earth Defense Force is Earth military, and all the technologies they've developed. The Earth Alliance is an alliance between the Earth Defense Force, the Earth military, like white hats, and extraterrestrials, the Galactic Federation of Worlds. So you have a conjoint alliance from two different military forces. And I know Jean-Charles Moyen speaks about on board the Solaris, the flagship of the Solar Warden. It was a mixed crew with Earth military, super soldiers, and extraterrestrials, different races from the Federation. So that's the...
So that CG, if I could just say his initials, said he was a part of Solar Warden. It seemed that there is a way, and I don't want to say too much. Maybe that would be for a private conversation, because I'm very careful about sharing anything connected to people's names. So I'll wait for maybe a one-on-one, or all of us have a talk about that before I say anything publicly.
Okay. I was just asking about Solar Warden because we have all heard hints about it, being that we had the USSS Hillenketter that was designed by the Navy, and the USSS Curtis LeMay. And I guess there were 4 of each one in 1970. And they were a lot like that picture I put up a little earlier, cylindrical with like geodesic domes at the tips, which would be these. And they were built in space. Now, this is Solar Warden.
They have long ships like this, and this technology of very oblong, long ships, it's been done in collaboration with the Federation. When Walter arrived and started to set up all these programs, mainly the extraterrestrials were involved, were humans looking like us. They were mainly Pleiadians and Alpha Centaurians, and these long cigar-shaped ships are very typical from the Pleiades.
There is a video out there, or a report actually, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was talking about long cylindrical ships that were over 15 miles long that were in the rings of Saturn. Do you know anything about that? Can you elaborate on that, Elena?
They're everywhere. There's so many, and not only belonging to Solar Warden, but also belonging to the ETs themselves. The Federation has a lot of these cargo ships, and they are cargo ships, by the way. Not all of them, okay. Some of them, when they don't have all the little bubbles on, they're just a cigar shape. These are cargoes, and they carry all the little scout ships, and it allows the scout ships to go through shortcuts to travel longer distances. They shift dimensions, these cargo ships.
That's very cool. Tom?
tell about.
Yeah, I just turned my volume off. So yeah, so you know quite a bit, or you feel you pretty much know about the crafts and the ships a little bit, and that the background there. Where would you say that the majority of the ETs live? Would you say they live on planned communities on these particular crafts or ships?
In our solar system, you mean those who are in the solar system?
Yeah.
They live mainly on motherships or stations that they mainly call char. Yes, char or char. Always mix up. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
So,
And yeah, on motherships. They have also outposts on planets, but mainly on motherships because they can.
well, that was it. You know, a lot of people argue how could ET life get here? They so far away, and I've always said they're a lot closer. Like my father did, they're a lot closer to home than we realize, and I think that they're just outside. On what would you call them? Just motherships, or would you have a better name for that, or is there something that resonates more with you than mothership?
They call them, or in the Federation, which I interact a lot, they call them stations. But stations, but it's when I say stations, it confuses. So I say motherships because on Earth we visualize better.
Yeah, it's a more recognizable term. Yeah. So stations, that's kind of interesting. So, well, how many do you think are around us right now? Do you think there's thousands, millions, hundreds? Just a ballpark of.
About 500 motherships in total.
How many?
About because it changes. 500 motherships, the big ones, and all of them have each hundreds of little scout ships. So
how big are these motherships?
The 50 pounds. Those are cargo ships.
It's huge. I mean, these motherships also carry the cargo ships. These motherships, they're like floating, like little planets. It depends on the shapes. I know the Federation. They're like they have this like saucer shape with peaks on the top and peaks on the back on the bottom. These kind of shapes. The Andromedans, they have spherical ships. The Council of Five as well. Spherical ships are the best shape to shift dimensions quickly and densities. It's a technology that is more widespread. And then you have the Intergalactic Confederation. It's saucer shapes. These are the big ones. And scout ships can be any shapes. Mostly it's like the classical pencils.
Would you put a size or a shape, a specific shape to a project or something that they would be doing? So if we were to hypothetically see a cigar shape off the coast versus a sphere off the coast or a disc off the coast, would you be able to kind of say or assume or suggest that particular style or look of that craft, you kind of get an idea why it's here and what it's doing?
Yes, totally. I can identify about 100 of them. But then, besides that, you have the drones.
I'm sorry?
Beside the ships where people travel in that I can identify.
Oh, drones, yeah.
You have drones. It's like smaller ships or plasma balls or just spherical drones. That is commonly used by everyone, and it's difficult to identify who sends them. And then you have anything that is spherical. It's difficult, to identify them.
Can you tell them by color?
No, because the color change. They are all looking like metallic or shiny metallic, more or less, and when they are in space. But when they are in an atmosphere, the electrogravitic field around the craft creates ionization in an atmosphere. So depending on the layers of atmosphere or where the ship is, in the electromagnetic field of the planet, the ionization is going to create around the ship a different color. So
Right.
it can be, usually it's orange.
Yeah,
Sometimes
that's what
it can
I
be
see.
green.
That's what
Orange with variation white to nearly red, or otherwise green.
I'm actually seeing orange, and I've seen 41 orange orbs, large ones, at probably estimate just from my vantage point about 1,000 to 1,500 feet up, and they're pretty large, and they go over the building I live in. So I've seen quite a few of them, and they're bright orange, and they're pulsing. It's not like they're just coming into our atmosphere. They're low. So I don't know if that's their actual color or if that is the ionization from their propulsion.
It's ionization, yes.
Gotcha.
And
I've seen
depending on the sizes, normally the plasma they have plasma balls that are glowing orange with the ionization around them, and these are remote viewing cameras.
Wow, cool.
The orange one that I saw two actually. It almost looked like something was moving and turning on the inside, almost like an ocean wave was moving. And it almost looked like an orange and a yellow, like it was almost burning on the inside, like a sun.
Wow.
It was, yeah. And it did a 90-degree turn, and it came down where we're a bunch of school kids. We were all hanging out after school, and it came down and followed the distance off the ground, the same height off the ground. And then when it got to the bottom, it rose and cleared some houses and went into a field. And there must have, I don't know, 40, 60 kids from school were there. And I think we were in 7th or 8th grade, and it was right in front of us. So it was kind of interesting. But again, it had that orange, reddish tint to it. Anyway, so that's my sphere story.
I've actually seen a green one come up from the ground and travel across the full width of my windshield in my car, and it wasn't fireworks because it wasn't around the 4th or any type of celebration, but I saw it. It's a big green ball, Kelly green, boom, and it came up from the ground, not from the sky.
Yeah.
First one I ever saw. So let's go around the panel and take last comments. Tom, any last comments?
No, I just found this actually it's so interesting. I'm actually going to have to watch this again because there was a lot of information in here.
Same
a lot
here.
of stuff that I tried to, I'll watch it again and take some notes. And I'm going to have some questions for you guys later. And by the way, I really hope that you can be part of, UFO Expo. If you guys would like to be part of that, make sure that, that we make time for you. And we got 3 different days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So whatever day is best for you guys, I'll work around our schedule and we'll make it happen.
We got a comment, best thing ever, LOL. Kids love it. They love the interview.
Wonderful.
Yeah, they're going to have to watch it again too. I know, right? Yeah. It was a lot.
There
All
you go, Tom.
these info are going to come out. All these information, these technologies.
I should get a book. I should probably get a book from you.
I'll tell you what, I would really like for all of you to consider coming back on the channel again, both of you, Laura and Elena, together, along with Tom, of course, and we'll dig deeper into this when we have a little more time together, and it would be fantastic to have you back.
Yeah, agreed.
I would love that. It's been wonderful to be here. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. That would be amazing.
Tonight we had no issues with microphone with Elena, so that was really cool.
That was a first.
Yeah, it was really good. And I want to thank everybody in the chat room for participating this evening. It was I was very honored to see that you were very respectful and honoring of these 2 intelligent and fine women. Thank you very much for your kind thoughts and questions and comments. I really appreciate that.